And when you see this, it does not look as, good as here at the end of the day. I could just be way the f off in terms of what I'm interpreting here too.
I think that is the case here. So there's lots of speculation on whether Thor is actually jacked or if he was CGI'd for this movie. And I gotta say, I was thinking the same thing because Disney came out with behind the scenes of the new Thor Love and Thunder movie, which they've been doing with all their new shows and movies. I like to watch those because I also have a filmmaking channel. I have a lot of experience with computers, editing, doing all this type of stuff. And when I was watching this, the first thing that caught my mind when it played that scene that everyone's looking at now of him like this, and I was thinking, that does not look like he did in the movie. He looked way more jacked. Like, did they CGI his body? That's what came to my mind. I sat down to do the video and I started looking at the footage I had more and more and thinking, you know what? I think I might be wrong. If they did CGI him, I don't think it's to the extent I initially thought. And I want to show you, this is the picture I was gonna use as a thumbnail. I put these side by side, try to size it as much as I could so that the proportions look the same. And I was thinking, look how much different he is here. So the abs, they really don't look that much different. But then the chest, it looks a lot flatter. His lats are almost non-existent, whereas here, he's got a nice V taper there. His arms look smaller. They look bigger here, shoulders are a lot bigger. And as I started looking at this more, I thought, you know what? He's in a completely different position. In the left side, I'm pretty sure these were practice runs. I'm gonna show you why as we get more into this from a lot of the footage from the behind the scenes to show like what it takes to get into shape for that and how much they might have enhanced. He's like this on the one on the left. So if you're like this, your lats are gonna be back instead of, if you pull out, now you got that V coming up. Same with your arms. If your arms are like this, they look a lot smaller than if they're like that. Shoulders forward, that's gonna make them flare out more and bring your chest out more. So just the position, like 6 inches of moving your arms here to here will make a huge difference on the physique.
And Chris apparently was in shorts the whole time, which is wild. The production quality and editing is that significant that they literally just I don't actually know if this is the final thing or just a practice run.
I'm pretty sure these are just rehearsals because he's sitting here telling them what to do. Hey, look, he's showing them, leaning back, you're shackled, flexing your muscles. And he's like, okay, I'm doing this. And I mean, look at this. This isn't special effects here. This is from the camera on the side that's watching them. People aren't enhancing this. So his chest is pretty massive here. Like in this initial scene, his chest looks kind of flat on the left. So you see here, they're probably trying to get that stuff right. This could be after they did this scene here. And he's like, hey, try doing it this way so that your chest stands out more. And now when you see him do that right there, I mean, his chest looks pretty thick, and this isn't with any special effects. Look at his shoulder. It's pretty huge. His arm looks huge. When you compare these side by side, his rear delt does look like it's sticking out a little further, but that could be the angle, because once again, here he's leaning back a little bit, but his chest still looks pretty much close to his thick. And if he brings his shoulders forward some more, like you can see there's a little bit back, then it's gonna bring out the upper chest a little bit more. And then we go a little further. You see him doing that, and then he kind of leans forward, and there. He has that more forward look. Now his chest just got a lot fuller, that rear delt sticking out a little bit more. Here's the same pose from the Hulk. I mean, we got it right there. Look, he's got the arms back, huge delts. They know how anatomy looks, how to make it look huge. Who knows, he could have had a stunt double for the butt. Didn't want to show his butt, who knows? It could be fake, could be CGI, because after all, they CGI the clothes onto him. Like, look at this. If you do scene by scene, there, the first one, it's blowing off, some of it's gone. Go a little more, it's past them, there's little sparkles or whatever coming off of them, further back, further back, further back. So in all reality, that was never even on them. When you come here, same thing, frame by frame, there's the big wind blow on them, and then it's there and it's gone immediately. But that stuff goes so fast, you don't know that. He's probably standing there the whole time and he looks really jacked there. Look at this shoulder. If anything, I think that's the type of enhancements they did where they just made everything look a little thicker. But the vascularity, I'm gonna show you a scene in a little bit. You could see how vascular he looked behind the scenes and what it takes to get like that. But his arm looks rather huge here. He's got abs. It's not like they're crazy defined, like he's down to show ready bodybuilding, 5-6% body fat. He's probably like 8. But there's all the speculations on, did he take drugs to do this? People think he's natural. They never say from movies like what they actually do. It's just, oh, I train for hours and hours a day and eat a ton of food, and then I get big and shredded when everyone else bulks and gets fat. And it doesn't work for them because they don't say everything they take. Is it really even wrong, just posing this question before I go into everything else, if they did CGI him? Let me know what you think in the comments. Is it bad that they CGI'd his body to look better? I mean, the whole worlds are CGI'd. In the case of the movie, he's playing a character, and so they're trying to make him look like this comic book character as much as possible. He came in jacked, did what he had to do to look as good as possible, and then they enhanced a little more. Like, is that wrong? No. The times I think it's wrong is, say, for his like center app where it's like, oh, this is what he did to get jacked and in shape for Thor. If you're saying, hey, you can look like he did in this movie, this is how Chris Hemsworth looked, get our app, then yeah, that's wrong because that's false advertising. I noticed a lot of times like this, you see he's got these little dots on his arms. You have here, you see the little dots all right there and think, oh, well, you know, they've got these placements to help with CGI. We got the dots on his arms here. A lot of that's for these type of CGI effects that they've done in other movies before when Thor's going into his more Thor-like suit, I guess. And you can see where the suit's being CGI'd onto his arms. So, you know, if they can CGI this whole thing over his arms, why can't they enhance his arms a little bit for a scene? Something to think about there, so it's definitely possible. And we'll never know for sure if they CGI'd him, because in all reality, Chris probably doesn't even know if he was CGI'd, because he just does his scene, he leaves, he's not editing the movie, and it's not even crossed his mind he's glad to eat again because the hardest scene is done. And talking about the hardest scene, peeking for, what does it take to look like this, and why are you probably not gonna look like that? He has people following around, getting him ready for scenes while the director's talking to him about what I want you to do. They're sitting there spraying him with water, you know, so that you get the light glistening off you, all that stuff to look even better. They do things to make the muscles stand out more with props. Like this prop master was talking about how they have two different axes for him. One is a big rubber one that they use for the action scenes, but then they have another one that's a lot heavier, so the times when he's just standing there holding his axe, well, now his muscles are standing out more and looks more buff.
He was in a otherworldly physique when he showed up to set.
But look at him here, you know, they're fitting him for stuff. They said when he showed up, he was huge. This right here looks a lot different from this here. You know, so how do you go from this to this? Because you see like his abs, they're not crazy defined. He probably did dehydrate himself and all that stuff peak week. I've got videos on that and how much different it can change your body just in a few days to get yourself in shape for your photo shoot, which in this case, it's essentially a photo shoot because the whole rest of the time, he's got a suit on and just his arms are showing. So he does some curls, some push-ups, pumps up the arms, the shoulders, and makes his arms look a little bit bigger, which they don't even look this big in the rest of the movie. You can watch throughout it and see, yeah, his arms look big, but they're not crazy ridiculous. But in this scene, we are so focused on his body because everything's showing, it's like, hey, we want to make it look as good as possible because it is a character after all. I mean, you see here, his shoulders are pretty huge. Like, look how big his arms are. When you get a pump, it is crazy. Like for me, for example, my chest isn't huge. It's not like popping out or whatever, but I get halfway through a chest workout and I look in the mirror, I'm like, dang, my chest is actually pretty big. I mean, just a pump does so much for you. So we see him doing these workouts. You see how massive his arms look. So with the pump, he is rather huge. And then combine that with getting dehydrated and ready to go on stage. Look at this. They show him doing push-ups. I can only guess right here, it was right before he was about to do that scene. You know, they're practicing doing that. He's got the shorts on. Okay, practicing, how do you want to get this? How are we gonna get this just right? Because you don't want to just be hanging out naked doing this video if he really was naked for that scene. He's getting down, doing push-ups, pumping up, and look at his arm veins. Those look like lacerations going through his arm because he's so dehydrated. The veins, the pump, everything are sticking out like crazy. So you can bet he's probably spent a few days carb depleting and then getting dehydrated, then eating a bunch of carbs like in a peak week without drinking water for this one day, this one shooting time. What a peak week will do to you. This was pictures from a year prior when I didn't do anything special. I just got up, took pictures in the morning. This one I did a peak week prior, and look how much more vascularity there is going through my arm. The bicep, you can see the veins down in the abs all coming out because even though it's pretty much the same body fat percentage, I was depleted of almost like 5 pounds of water that I got out of my system that I lost in 3 days. And then you carb up, take those pictures, and it's pretty wild. And one of the main reasons I started looking at this was because I remember seeing the first Thor movie back in 09 or whatever it was, and you see him here, yeah, he's got some muscle, but he doesn't look crazy like he does now. And I used to think, man, I want to try to get that physique. And all I had was Men's Health magazines back then that didn't do much help at all with diets or training. And when I look back at this Thor movie now, I'm thinking, you know what? I actually think I did pretty much get the Thor physique that I wanted over 10 years ago. I'm not as tall or as full or big as him, and he could have been on drugs for this too. I think this is achievable natural, but then when you go from that to this, that's a whole nother level. Like this, I don't think is something you can achieve naturally. And looking at that shot compared to this one, when he's more relaxed and not flexing, it's not as crazy. When you flex all your muscles, you make your veins stand out more, your shoulders and everything pops out those angles. Here, his arms are down. His shoulder still looks big, you know, right here, but his abs aren't going crazy because he's just breathing. He's not tightening down. You can see how he looks all wet because you got someone following you around, spraying you down, making you look as good as possible, getting lighting just how it needs, all that different stuff. There's so much that goes into it, but if he was CGI'd, I think it was just a tiny bit, little enhancements. I think his physique, what we saw on there was pretty much what was there. Could be wrong, but let me know what you think in the comments. It was definitely a pretty bad movie. I don't suggest seeing it because it's pretty dumb. The third one was great, but they just tried too hard on this one and didn't work out too well. I enjoyed the behind the scenes and seeing all the crazy stuff they do for making these films. It's pretty amazing. But I've got a lot of videos that'll help you see, you know, what kind of stuff could you do naturally just for the average person? What kind of physique could you get, like diets, training plans that I do, that I've done for other people? Just let me know in the comments if there's anything you want to know at Camber Fitness Instagram, all kinds of great stuff. We will see you in the next one.